This episode is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the #1 tool for all podcasters. You can record high-fidelity audio between remote locations and get studio-quality sound. Go to Zencastr.com and use coupon code THATENTERTAINS for 20% off for 3 months or 20% off an annual plan.
Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelant Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome. You guys are awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is a show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And here we are continuing our podcast festival celebration for Philadelphia. The 2018 Philadelphia Podcast Fest is coming at you June 22nd. Things kick off, and everything wraps up on July 1st. What a crazy week I've had, guys. I've had, in a matter of like 3 or 4 days, about 6 or 7 interviews for the podcast festival to help promote and get word out about that. And I also started Weight Watchers about a week and a half ago. And that has been interesting, real interesting. So I'll probably have more updates about my Weight Watchers journey once we get through the podcast fest season here. But let's get into some housekeeping real quick. I say it every week. You guys listen to the show. That's great support. I appreciate it. I thank you for listening to the show. Without your guys' support, there is no show. Without you listening, there is no show. If you find it in your heart to want to support us in other ways, a couple of different options for you. You can go to patreon.com/thatentertains and you subscribe there. And that subscription for as little as $1 a month gets you early access to anything that entertainment puts out. From Everything is Awesome to our podcast on the podcast network to comic book reviews and stuff like that. And more as we decide to add more and more content like videos. That's something that I've been badly wanting to get on there, like original video content, sketches and all that good stuff. And the money that we, raise through those subscriptions are used to help better Everything is Awesome and all the other shows on the That's Entertainment Podcast Network. So if you guys are a big fan of The Ladies Who Rant or Bullies Keep Out and stuff like that, the money we pull together covers hosting fees for all those shows and sets up an emergency fund for when equipment breaks for those shows as well. So the money is used not just for this show or not just That's Entertainment, it's used for anyone that's part of this company. If they help give us content, we're going to help support them any way we can with Patreon. Of course, the Philadelphia Podcast Fest is coming up. You can support us by coming to that live show on July 1st at 1 p.m. We're kicking off the last day of the festival at Tattooed Moms on South Street, July 1st at 1 p.m. You can also leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Word of mouth recommendations are also great. Let's get to our guest this week, Mr. David Steele from the Steele Empire. I have not had him on the show officially for about 2 years, but I get to sit down and chat with him once or twice a year. When we do things like the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, when we do things like the anniversary Let's F Cancer Podiversary special that we do in January, and any kind of other like podcasting events that happen throughout the city. And he's one of my favorite people that I get to sit around and chat with in the Philly area. He's a podcaster. A Quest for Magic and Steele will be at Tattooed Moms on June 23rd at 1 p.m. They're kicking off Tattooed Moms, the day 2 of the festival at 1 p.m. June 23rd. And on top of a Magic and Steele, that podcast, he also is the producer, editor, director, all that fun stuff for an audio drama called Ark City, which we talk about in this episode. Without further ado, let's get right to it. Here is my conversation with one Mr. David Steele on awesomepodcast.com. But, how's life going on your end?
Well, yeah, good. I mean, generally speaking, I did have back surgery 10 days ago.
Oh.
Well, I guess a little more. last Thursday. So I'm not walking great yet,
Yeah.
but getting.
May I ask why the back surgery?
Yeah, well, I've been actually out of work for over a year with my main job.
Oh.
Yeah, so workman's comp deal. So I've been doing physical therapy. I got a little minor surgery before they carve the bone. So this is the next step. I've been getting injections to help me like get by, just pain injections, and they've worked. They've been great, but they don't fix the problem. So now they went in and carved more bone out of the back of the spine because I don't want to get a fusion yet. I mean, I'm not old enough for that. It's not. I don't want to cripple myself. So anyway, they carved some bone and then they put in these metal spacers in between the vertebrae to open it up, to decompress the area. So, I'm hoping. It's just I'm having pain from the surgery though, because when they go in there and fuck around with the nerves, they get all inflamed.
Yeah.
So
That's
it. But yeah, so every day I'm getting a little better, a little stronger.
Wow. That's I mean, that makes me complaining about being sick for the last month mean nothing.
Well, I don't know. A month of sickness is pretty tough.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's partially like it's part allergies. It started. I cut the grass when I was a little sick, just a little bit sick, and all the pollen must have flown into my nasal passage or something. Yeah, it's been bad. And I felt it again tonight. Like my eyes were getting real itchy. I was hoping for like a little bit more rain to kind of just wash it away again, like it did earlier this week. But before we get too far into this, because I do the show a little differently now. Cool. That the stuff with your back. Do you want me to not include that in this?
No, I don't care. No, I
okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I do post intros and outros now, so cool. I don't kick it off with the guest. That was my going into year 3 change of the show.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you've been doing it forever, man. So yeah, you got to change it up once in a while.
Well, yeah. Generally, yeah, but yeah, this everything is awesome. Is I guess 2.5 years old now. Yeah. And this is your 3rd festival too, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So me, you, Brian Durkin, Jeff Stormer, and we all came up in this the same class of the podcast festival.
Yeah.
And I think, and all 4 of us are still doing it. Yeah. I don't know. I should have taken a closer look at the schedule to see if I could pinpoint. Obviously, I don't know if there's any originals from year 1. There's got to be.
Yeah, well, I know the Black Tribbles are still doing it, so they're definitely. I don't know if they've done year 1, but I imagine they probably did. I know they're as long as us though, at least the 3 years.
Yeah, and I think Overdue has done it longer than us. I think they were at least the year before us. Right. And they're the Superhero Speak maybe also did it before us, or at least when we started
last year. And I don't know if he's there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I like them. What? I remember, and I didn't see him last year.
You're right. I don't think they're on the schedule this year.
Yeah, Dave,
and
his last name Markowski or something.
I've been trying to. No, I think they are on the schedule this year because I think I emailed them.
Okay.
And I've been trying to there's some guys that I've been trying to book on the show, and I don't know if it's bad contact info or I know they're huge. They're I'm sure super busy.
They're good dudes
with whatever. Yeah. But so and you guys are doing it. You're kicking off Tattooed Moms, right?
Yes, we are. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's because the last 2 years, as far as the Philly festival is concerned, you've done Amalgam.
Yeah, we have. That's correct.
So what's because I know you guys did Tattooed Mom, my first anniversary show.
Yep.
So what's is there a different attack plan going to Tattooed Mom versus Amalgam?
Yeah, definitely. And the reason we're doing it, Nathan asked me about it. If I minded. I prefer Amalgam. That's definitely more our group. But he had a lot of people that were kind of more Amalgam type, the comic book stuff. So I had to kind of step back. And he needs me to do sound at Tattooed. Breach Set was unavailable. So, so I'm like, all right, well, it just kind of works out that it would be easier for me to be there and do our show there. So it's definitely different because there's really no seating. It's more of a chill hangout thing. So for us to do that and have audience participation, there's really not that. I mean, we'll try to have some people come, but it's not the same thing. Then to get them to come to the comic store is a little easier. They can hang out, some coffee, and read some comics or buy something. But at the Tattooed Moms is known as just a bar basically, and hang out and drink. So it's definitely different from our crowd, the family friendly thing. But we look at it as just we're doing it for the recording. So it's like hey, we're live at blah blah blah. We kind of amp up the feel and do a one shot, bam bam bam. So we just do our thing and not really worry about the crowd so much.
Yeah, we did the same thing recently at South Street Cinema. We screened Army of Darkness, and we did a pre-show where there was a couple people there for that, but that was my first time. My pre-show was it was the Zomcast, and I've turned that show from like a horror / The Walking Dead TV show podcast to an actual play, horror themed podcast.
Yeah.
And that was like my first entry into, all right, let's do an actual play.
Wow.
Let's do a 2-player actual play, and I'll be the GM. And we played, have you heard of the game The Bite?
No.
So it's like a card
vampires?
game. What's that?
Is it vampires involved?
No, it's a zombie based game.
Okay.
And the short of it is it's a 2-player game, and it doesn't use dice. It doesn't use any kind of traditional character sheets or anything. It's just like this. It's a card game that helps guide a conversation, and you're put into this scenario of whatever you want, but it's zombie. Apocalypse, and you found yourself in this setting, and how did you get there and whatnot, and it's technically GM-less, and I'm probably not going to air it only because it did not turn out how I wanted it to turn out. My buddy Mike and I played, and I don't know, like, we decided to just play as like variations of ourselves versus like actual characters, and I think that, like, unless you're like a skilled improver or a skilled like storyteller in that medium, like you guys and Party of One and stuff like that, I think it's a hard thing to accomplish something like that.
Right.
I had fun playing it, but yeah, it's the someone gets you deal. There's like 12 cards. You end up with 4 each, and one of you could have this card called the Bite card, and there's on the table, there's an X card where if something comes up in conversation that you or the other player doesn't want to be included in the game, like let's say, as an example, rape or something.
Right.
If that's a sensitive subject that you didn't talk about beforehand to not include in the game, someone, like, let's say that was my thing and you brought it up for whatever reason, I would just tap the X card, or if we're doing a podcast, I'd say, let's X that. And then we just kind of pretend it never happened and move along and figure something else out. And then next to that is something called the gun card. And the 4 cards you're holding in your hand are conversation cards, and you may have the Bite card. And you use the conversation cards to help guide the role play and kind of tell the story that you're telling in this zombie apocalypse. And if you have the Bite card, you reveal it last. If it gets to that point, at any point, any player can grab the gun card. When you grab the gun card, you have to make one of 3 decisions: shoot yourself, shoot the other player, or destroy the gun. And you never reveal who has the Bite card. If someone has it, and if you destroy the gun, then that's end game, and you explain why you made that decision and whatnot. It's actually it's a lot different than like your standard D&D and Dungeon World and all that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds a lot of fun.
And I'll tell you what, if you have time, search Jeff's podcast.
Yeah.
He did the episode of it, and it's really good.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I'm slowly going to, once I kind of catch up on some other like that entertainment related things.
Yeah.
I'm going to slowly get into more doing actual play. That's the next podcast I want to do, is an actual play podcast.
Cool.
So inspired by the likes of you
Yeah, well,
and
Jeff's a pro.
Jeff. And
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, and like you guys have been, doing it for over 3 years at
We're
this
in
point,
year
or
three.
close
We're
to
in year 3 now.
Yeah, you're in year 3. Yeah. And but you've recently moved to bi-weekly, right?
That's correct. Yeah, regrettably, just trying to do other things. I couldn't keep up with the weekly editing. Yeah.
But that's good that you recognize that. Like that's that's a strength I don't have, is like recognizing when I have too much on my plate.
Yeah.
And I just try to find a way to make up for it, or I just I burn myself out in a night or two to catch up or whatever. But yeah, because you started doing a project that I wish this is one of the things that I put on my plate and I just didn't have time for. Ark City.
Yep.
A drama, dramedy,
Audio drama. Yeah.
Auto drama, that's what I'm looking for. So how did that project, because that you collaborated with one of the boys from After Six, right?
Yeah, Adam Christopher. Yep. Yeah, it's a cool story actually, because before we even started podcasting, I always thought about doing stuff, doing theater. I wanted to make my own film, but I just never had the skills and never went out and did it. Just those things you kind of think about, like, it'd be cool if we did that. And I always had stories in my mind of what I wanted to do. And then we started doing the podcasting. The first year of starting A Quest for Magic and Steele, I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I'd like to do a podcast. I started listening to all kinds of podcasts, different genres, trying to think of stuff that we could do as Steele Empire, what else we wanted to work on. And I said, you know what? I'd like to do a audio drama because I'll have the time for it, where if I just do it myself. So I imagine, okay, it'd be like a post-apocalyptic thing. Everybody's doing that, but I want to do a different spin on it. So I don't know where it'll go and what the ultimate thing is going to be. It's not going to be like a zombie thing, but this guy wakes up maybe after a nuclear blast or whatever, and he finds a recorder. And basically, like it could be a Zoom, recorder or something. And basically he starts messing with it and he doesn't know how it works. And he ends up recording himself. And then he starts figuring it out. Oh, okay, this thing must be, I don't know if I'm broadcasting or if this thing is just recording myself, but then he goes on everyday life, dealing with what he's doing, just looking around for other people. He's by himself for a while. So I imagine the first season of him just basically he wakes up and he's above what's that place with all the aliens? Area 64? No, I'm not saying it. 51. Area 51, like out in Nevada, he kind of wakes up and he realizes later on, like at the end of the season 1, he'd find like a trap door opening or something, and there's a big bunker underground. So somehow he doesn't remember, like he lost his memory, and he's just walking around trying to figure it out and find civilization. So anyway, that was all I had. And then I talked to my daughters about it. My one daughter, Amara, the DM, and then the one that played Rashandala, Shayna. She did some art drama stuff in high school and wrote some plays. And I'm like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? And we started brainstorming. And then she talked about all this other stuff. She talked about having the recorder thing be on his arm, like an armband. And I'm thinking, oh, that's like Cowboys and Aliens, like a thing. And like, it could even be a weapon or something. And so we started riffing about this. Like, oh, okay. So anyway, we're just brainstorming, and we wrote down a bunch of notes. But again, I'm still not taking that step because I'm not a screenplay writer. I wanted her to help me. She's busy with school. So I'm just on Facebook one day, and Adam's a good friend. We've kept in touch with. He's promoted our podcast, and we've done interviews. And you've had him on your show too. He's really good people. So I'm talking to him. I mean, I'm looking on Facebook, and I notice his Facebook profile. He says, author. I'm like, oh my God, like, what's his deal? Like, does he write? So anyway, I hit him up. I go, listen, dude. I don't know how busy you are. I know you have the podcast. That's all I know, really. I don't know what else you do with your life. And I said, I noticed you have author in there. Are you like, I have this idea, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of just pitched it to him. He jumped on board like a little kid Christmas morning, man. He's like, hell yeah. SteeleEmpire. I love what you do. Production. It'll be awesome. I can definitely get on that. So we had a brainstorming session with me and the girls and him. On the phone, we just had a chat, and then it just exploded, man. And Adam is just insane. His ideas and then there's all this stuff started pouring out of him, and basically he took the reins on the storyline, and it became this whole different thing. I'm like, oh wow! So then it morphed into what it is now, Ark City, and so the basic premise of it is people that listen to season 1, this guy starts out. It's kind of like end time stuff going on in the world. And I don't want to give away exactly what it is because you have to follow the show to figure that out. But but basically, season 1 is the wife. They're in this Ark City, which is basically kind of like a town that, like, the big countries have their own arcs. So this is Ark City in America. So they end up having this place where they bring in the best of the best, kind of like, like Noah's Ark. There's been movies that have been done like that where they bring in the scientists and, like the artists and stuff, trying to keep civilization alive. So that's basically like their last stand thing. And then there's a science program going on, which is where him and his wife are there for that. And he has a daughter as well. You find out later. But the wife is the lead on this project. She's actually scheduled to go in and take on and get this surgery to take on this enhancement in the science field to help whatever they're doing, which I can't give it away. Ends up being she can't do it the last minute, and you don't realize that listening to it, but it comes out at the end. So the husband ends up doing it. He undergoes it, and he actually loses some of his memory. So he doesn't even remember his real name. It's Nathan Alexander, you find out in the beginning. But as the show goes on, he's lawful good. He finds out. It's written down because they've played D&D a lot as a family. And his wife always teases him that he's lawful good. So that's what she calls him. So he sees that written down somewhere. And then he's like, oh, I guess that's my name, So he's lawful good for the rest of the show. And it ends up being pretty cool, man. It's fun for me, doing the audio work, editing and mixing with these different levels of tracks, and bringing in the soundscape and the different sound effects, and trying to make, when you listen to it, you're just listening to this guy going on whatever he's doing. And especially if you have headphones on, and you can feel like you're there with him. That's so exciting for me. And listening to some audio dramas, I get, there's a couple good ones, but then there's some that just were missing the mark for me. They're more like just like audio books that, have some sound effects. So I wanted it to be more like engrossing and like you're there in the moment. So I've been rambling. I apologize, but
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, man.
I have one of the things that I said early on in in my podcasting career, or even maybe before that, was like, man, I would love to do like a radio drama. Like that's always been in the back of my mind, like a passion project. And that's why when you I don't know if you messaged like a whole bunch of people to see if they were interested in it.
I did. Yeah. That was a cool thing too. Because right before I had the scripts, I had the first 10 episodes for season 1. And then I wanted to do 5 of them right away, have them done before I even put the show out live, and then throw out 5 episodes right away. Bam. That was going to be my opening house. And so I put out a thing on Facebook to just all my friends that I've been Facebook friends with that were in the podcasting world or whatever that I knew were in entertainment or something like that. So, and I got a ton of feedback, and I was really pleasantly surprised of people that wanted to maybe take time to be involved.
Yeah. And it was like, it actually was, I don't know. I think I was like in the middle of like a mental breakdown / just had too many projects of my own, but definitely
going on, dude.
Well, and I seem to remember, if I'm connecting the dots correctly, like right after like I joined the group and whatnot, and like you were talking about it with everybody, and it was right in like the pre-production or practically production of season 1. Yeah. Like one of the sites that I was writing for, like me and a guy got into a huge like disagreement, and then like he went psycho, and like it did not do well for my psyche. So like I had a mental breakdown like that lasted for months. And really kind of, I would say like maybe recently was like where I could finally like look at all my passion projects again and be like, all right, it's time to get back into like doing some stuff. But it's, like the audio drama, I love. Like that's like, as soon as you sent it, like I hopped on it, and I actually, I did take an opportunity because I'm not a voice actor at all, but I enjoy it. I wanted to try it out, and that's why I hopped on the opportunity to try it with Ark City. But there's another podcast that I'm terrible for not remembering the name of, but they kept on tagging my Everything Is Awesome Twitter account, saying thanks for being a guest on our show and providing a voice and being part of this, blah blah blah. And it was like right around New Year's. It was like, hey guys, maybe I drank too much on New Year's Eve, but I don't remember doing this. Like, you're welcome, but I don't think I did. And they're like, oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, you were great. I was like, okay. And I left it at that.
Free advertisement. All right.
Yeah. And then 3 months later, they tag me again for saying, thanks for doing the show. And like, so I start doing some investigation. I was like, hey guys, you're talking about the dude that's the host of the other Everything Is Awesome podcast. And
there's another one?
Yeah. So, and it's funny because I think that when we talked, I hadn't known about it.
Yeah.
When we first did like our interview a year or plus ago, 2 years ago, I think. And it was the last time you were on the show. And so I had no idea at that point that there was another Everything Is Awesome podcast. I started recording episodes as Everything Is Awesome before, like 2 to 3 months before they started posting, but I didn't start posting until about a month or two after them. And I didn't know. I checked when I went into pre-production. I checked and I was like, oh great, this podcast doesn't exist now. Thankfully, they're super cool, that podcast. We're planning a crossover episode finally after I think we each have like 120 some episodes under our belts. Wow. And we're gonna finally like do a crossover, but like they call theirs and they've called it from the beginning Everything Is Awesome with Casey and Jeff, I believe is the official title of the podcast. I'm simply Everything Is Awesome. So it's funny if you Google it, usually it's the Lego movie that pops up. But if you include the word podcast, like we both fight for the number one result of Google. It's neat and it's cool. And like, in hindsight, like I kind of wish like I had checked before I started posting to see if they existed. But what are you going to do? I'm sure there's plenty of other podcasts that have similar title names, so it's whatever. Yeah. So because of the confusion with this other podcast, that was an audio drama, they're like, hey, like, sorry, blah, 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 blah. But like to make it up, like, let's actually have you do a voice. And, so I did a voice for this podcast that I will definitely have in the show notes because I am awful and don't remember the name of the show that I was a guest on. But yeah, that was fun. It was and I just did my voice, and it was like the first time I've done anything like quote unquote acting in years. Like the last time, if you count my dopey 5-hour zombie video, then it was that. And before that, I was on Bedford Diaries as like a background extra who got promoted to like a foreground extra or something like that.
Well, you can't discount Steel Tip though. Don't you do some acting when you do that?
That's true. I mean, that character's retired. But yeah, you're right. You're right. All that wrestling. Yeah. And to a smaller degree, even doing like the live versions of these shows includes some acting. Yeah. Going back to like our live shows in the festival, and we'll touch on the Ark City stuff some more because I do have more questions. But now that we're here, like after the last January show that you guys did the sound for and whatnot, I like went into such a funk because of, partially because of how I felt about my episode. I didn't edit it. Like I put a pre-intro on and a post. I don't even think I did an outro. I just put a pre-intro on and said, hey guys, this is probably garbage. So here it is. I'm going to post it, but this is whatever. I was really down on myself about that episode, but more importantly, like I got into a funk about doing live shows again, like to the point where I almost considered like saying I'm just not going to do them this year. Like I'm done. Like I'll take the year off from the festival and whatnot, but not because of that, not because of my performance, but because one of the sponsors of it like didn't do anything that they said they were going to do to help promote it. And I just got like in a deep funk, but luckily like I learning about these different venues, like before that live show that you did the sound for, I learned Amalgam, like just like I learned how Tattooed Mom probably wasn't the best venue to invite you guys out to when you did the first festival that I held. I learned that my show as a late night talk show does not work in Amalgam when I did my first show there.
I don't know that I thought that was a lot of fun when you did your show there.
It was. Oh, it was a lot of fun, but it's I felt like it didn't, but and maybe it was just the way I marketed it,
And
but
you mean
it
for the
didn't
audience,
feel.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know what? We did the 100th episode at Amalgam, and for that I did a format for actual play. Like I had Jeff run a game for me,
Yes.
and that turned out so good.
Yeah.
And that was a huge turnout, and I was like, okay, I think I'm learning this game and whatnot. And I was considering, I was talking to Mike, I was like, I think maybe we just give up on the late night gimmick and we do something else for our live shows. And and the only reason I'm doing the festival is because both the Philadelphia Comic-Con and the Wizard World Comic-Con accepted our panels, and they were just a fun way to do a different version of this show live.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, okay, I'm back in it. And I am going to go to Tattooed Mom, and I am going to do the late night thing. I'm working on booking some pretty cool guests, hopefully. But yeah, I almost left the live game,
Sure.
the live show game,
Yeah.
which is weird because like it's something that I've I think I've been a huge proponent of here in Philadelphia, because outside of the festival, I feel like it doesn't happen very often.
No.
Yeah, like it's and something that I saw another festival do in Chicago. They do a podcast festival. They do a monthly showcase. They partner with some with a like an improv club or something, and do monthly showcases where they just promote local podcasts and kind of like say, this is what we're going to do at the festival, come check it out.
Yeah.
And that's like seems like a neat idea to try to like kind of to steal and make our own here in Philly. But so yeah, so with Ark City, I have to know like how, because I did see a couple pages of like a sample script, or maybe just like a actual scenes that were like kind of put together.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it's very similar to like a screenplay that you would have, that you would write for a film or a TV show.
Yeah.
Is that how? And I know Adam did most of the writing, but you obviously read it and I'm sure helped edit it and whatnot. Is that what it is? Is it just simply when you write a radio drama or an audio drama, is it simply just like any other type of screenplay you would read?
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. And I didn't know, because I don't know how to do that. That's why I asked for his help, because I was like, I would just write an outline like I've done in high school, and and then maybe make some scripts, for this guy says this guy says that. But he's done it in a way where in his mind, okay, this is what I imagine these guys saying, blah blah blah, this is how the story's going to go, and he actually puts in there, okay, this is what I hear, this radio static, and then then these guys are speaking over this kind of music. So he actually puts in notes and all too, of kind of like stage left, stage right, so it makes it easy for me. So then I'm reading it and I can get his vision as I'm reading it, and as an actor too, you can kind of say, oh, okay, you can get involved in it and see it's written the same way like you would for a film. And then I take it, I read it, and I go, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And then we're working on season 2 now, so we'll do a conference call, and I'll be like, what is this? And I'll have to kind of get in his brain, because he just does this whole thing on his own. And like, okay, all right, now this is what I'm thinking, this is what I see. And then we go back and forth on that and hammer out the details to make sure we're both in line with the storyline of where we want it to go. And then we work on the hardest part is with the voice actors, of course. They're segmented, so we don't do a thing where we do a live read. That would be great to get everybody together. It's just too much work. And we probably could do it, but I just never even tried. But
it would be hard.
Yeah, I basically just give the lines, go, here's what it is, blah, blah, blah. And I give them that whole section so they can read what's going on. And I'll give them, if there's dialogue with someone else, I send them the whole thing so they can kind of read along in their head. Or even, I had one guy actually had his wife sit in. He does the main voice of a big character in season 2. As a matter of fact, the bonus episode's out, and it's the one that I was working on with that. It's between him and a girl voice. So he does his, and he had his wife, like, on the recording he sent me, just in the background off mic, reply to him, and then he did his thing on the mic. So that was cool, and that's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a real good way to do it.
Yeah, and then I take it, and I bring my 2 tracks together, I edit them separately, and then I put them together in my, thing, and I put them, I do my pauses, and imagine like it's real voice, and I just kind of feel it, and it all fits together. Then if there's something that they did a little off, that's like, this doesn't sound right in the flow of the conversation, I'll bring it back to them and say, look, this is what I need. And Paul, we just did the bonus episode. He's a blast because I'll tell him, "Hey, I just need this one word done." Like, definitely. So when he read it in this line, she's like, "Are you going to be on tonight?" He reads it and he's like, "Definitely." Like real, like, I'll be there. Like, serious. And like, dude, you're like in a conversation, like, no, definitely. I can't wait. I'll be there. That's what I need, more of that feel. So he gives me it and he's like, all right, here's the redo. He's like, definitely. And he goes, in case you need more, I'll do it now. And he's like, indubitably. And he just like, goes off on just like 10 words. Like, man, you're the best. It's just hilarious.
That I gotta say, as like doing like the acting part of it that I did earlier this year, that was the hardest part. Is like I'm reading lines with as a character that has a second character with them, but I literally just have to like read and then speak and then read in my head and try to like mimic the whole conversation. And I did my best to make sure like I gave plenty of takes and like kind of just did, like, read what his notes were, gave him his notes, did my own little inflections and whatnot, and then and gave him plenty of samples. And like I want to say, like, it was probably a total of like 3 minutes is what the audio was with my dialogue. And I probably gave him 10 to 15 minutes worth of material. And I was like, hey man, I just wanted to give you options. I wanted to make sure like I had plenty of different takes because I, just from like and not that I've directed many things, but from like a directing standpoint, from when I have directed, like, it's good just to like, hey, I know this is like a great take that we got, but let's just like get another one just in case. And so like, I know that could be kind of important. So with Ark City, Adam's the writer. You're obviously like the editor / producer and whatnot. But are you also like doing like a director's role? Because you said you gave notes back. So like, is that like the credit? Like you're credited as the director?
Creator, producer, director. Yeah. Adam is the writer and co-founder. I guess he'd co-producer. But yeah, I'm basically I basically do it all. Other than that, he writes it, and that's a lot of work. I can't do anything without that. But as far as production and what I want and how it comes out, he doesn't know. It's funny too because he loves it. He loves when I send him a here you go, dude, check this out. Let me know what you think, because he has no idea what I'm going to do with it. He has these things he writes in, and I do something. And I even change lines, like I'll be like, I don't like the way that sounds. And it's especially for my character, if I'm reading it, I just change it up. I make it more natural, or I might start singing in one part just because it feels good. Just whatever. It's kind of like me, that character.
Yeah.
And then I give it back to him. He's like, oh, cool. That's so wild. So then he doesn't know until he gets it what it's actually going to be. So it's kind of neat.
And with when you're doing something that's like to me, like doing an audio drama just seems so like large scale.
It is, yeah.
So when you're doing this in the world of also being a podcast, like how much, like if you're doing a 10 episode season, how much are you having in final production? It's ready to go before you start releasing.
Oh God, a lot more than I should. I do a lot of work on my laptop as well, so I can kind of take that on the go. So I'll do a lot of editing, like of people that give me lines, voice actors, and I'll edit their stuff out, and I'll clean it up and do some EQ stuff on that. So then they're ready to go. But then when I do my final edits, I need to be in my studio because I have some different pro effects they're loaded on my computer. You like pay for them, and you can't have them on more than one computer. So I have that on my studio one, and I have my studio speakers and my real good headphones. So I have to hear it in there. So then that means I have to take the time to actually be sitting in here for hours down in my basement, which can be difficult. But once I start on it, man, I'll get this feel of, okay, this is what I hear. And then I'll just be slow. Matter of fact, I just started doing it on Twitch. We have a SteeleEmpire Twitch page, twitch.tv/SteeleEmpire. And I just started playing around with that because I don't even know how to use that. So I got, Steam Labs, the OBS thing. And I've been playing with that. So I'm like, let me do a test thing. And I figure fans of audio drama or SteeleEmpire might want to see, how do I edit the audio drama? So I did actually, with this bonus episode, I did like 2 sessions I put up on Twitch where I'm editing. I'm like, okay, here's a picture of my, Adobe Audition. Here's my lines. And it's funny because I watched it back. It was like an hour-long thing. And I did like maybe 2 minutes of actual thing. Because I'll lay down the music, I'll play it, because I have to play a lot of it to get in the mood. And I'll play it, and then I'll bring in the static, so I'll go get that, and I'll put that in, and I'll play that back, and then I'll throw in the first line of text, or as a matter of fact, we have a DJ voice that comes in, like a radio station, like, you're listening to, and static, and I'll go back, rewind, play that again, listen to it, and then I'll add the next line that comes up, and I'm slowly piecing it together, and then I always have to go back and play it again to get the full continuity. So, dude, let me tell you, just, how it is editing a normal show, just the time that it takes to do that, I mean, hours upon hours. I can't even give you a time.
Yeah, I can't imagine it, because like when I have to edit, normally, like for me, I'm a light editor, simply because I come from the world of live streaming a podcast so many years ago. So I'm a firm believer of, like, unless you specifically say don't, like, take that out or something, don't put that in. I usually don't edit anything out, and I just make sure everything's equal and everything sounds good to the ear and whatnot. Unless it's like every now and then I've done a show during the day I've recorded, and I try to avoid it, because I want these interviews to sound good, and I don't want it to take a lot of time to turn it around. But like, I've had people who are like, listen, I can't do anything. And that's why I try to offer, like, here's my time frame, but also I can do something else if you really need me to.
Right.
And sometimes I got to do one like at 2 p.m. while I'm at work, and I don't work in my own office anymore. So like, I have to go out to my car, be close enough to the building where I still get a Wi-Fi signal, and do Zencastr over Wi-Fi, which works well. But it tends to turn into where there's a lot of audio drift.
Sure.
And that is, as a, that was an issue that I had prior to Zencastr, using, I think it was a Skype call recorder, but it turned everything to a single track, so that I couldn't fix the audio drafts. So while I don't like audio draft, at least with Zencastr, I can fix it. It just takes a lot of time, because typically it's like, all right, I'm talking for 5 minutes, or I'm talking for 2 minutes or whatever, and then you're talking for an amount of time. And every time the conversation switches hands, that's where the audio drift happens, and I have to cut the audio and nudge everything over a little bit, and that's where, like, I think I did a Justice League roundtable back in November, with me and like 4 or 5 other people, and because some of them were on Wi-Fi, because there were so many of us all in one Zencastr chat room, I had to nudge 5 people's audio around, and it took me, I think, a week doing. I lost count of how many hours, but it was a week straight editing every single day, and that's just to like people talking about like Justice League, not making acting, not making funny,
right.
Just talking about Justice League, talking about a movie that wasn't that very good for an hour, and so I can only imagine, like, when I eventually get into this audio drama game, that's something that's like on my bucket list, is I'm gonna instantly regret it when I have to sit there and start editing it to make it like a quality product.
It's actually, I mean, and believe me, let me tell you, the first few that I did for the first 5 shows I wanted to get out, if I had hair, it would have already been ripped out, but thank God I'm clean shaven. It was tough because it was brand new for me, taking this big project and now making it into quality, because I could throw some shit together and make it like, it's okay. But I wanted this to be sellable. I wanted this to be something where people are going to be like, yo, I want to buy this show. I want to produce it, have it on my, my thing, so that's what I want it to be. So down the road, we do a few seasons, people are going to be like, wow, this has a big following now. Let me pay for that. I want to produce that or have you on my team, like Penelope or one of those big production groups or networks. So anyway, now I've gotten a lot better. So I'm faster. I have some keyboard shortcuts, so I can slap it together pretty quick over versus what I was doing in the beginning.
So how long is a typical episode? Are you doing short form, long form?
Big time. So season 1, they're like, 8 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 15 minutes. I think not even. It's like maybe 14 minutes is the longest one. So definitely short. And I think 1 hour is season 1, maybe.
Okay.
So we actually have 10 episodes. And then it might not even be an hour, but I did a compilation one. So if you want to just download the one file, it's all 10 episodes just merged into one show. So you can listen to them all. Bam.
It's insane how much work. Like, I would say for me to edit my 1 hour podcast, it maybe takes a total of an hour and a half. And that's because I'm re-listening for an hour and then maybe taking a half hour to like make my minor adjustments that I typically need to make. But I would imagine that each episode, just from what I know of listening to audio dramas, that 8-minute episode has to take you multiple hours to just get right.
Definitely.
It's insane.
And it's more the artistic thing that you're doing while you're in the studio, you're playing with it, finding the right sounds even. Like I don't have it all pre-programmed, I say, okay, I need a static sound here. So I'll take hours just going through my sound library, like, I need something good here. And then sometimes I'll have to go make my own sound. Like I had to do a cup of tea thing and stirring. So I go up in my kitchen and get my spoons out and start rattling around in the drawer. I need some sounds of the kitchen. Opening drawers, and so I have to take my Zoom recorder up there and just do some sound. So yeah, I mean, you're talking days, weeks, to work on one episode, because it's not like you're doing it full time, at least me. So then you do that, you get that recorded, then okay, now I got to go down and edit that, clean it up, and then put it on. But once you get everything, that's why it's nice that I can use my laptop for doing a lot of the cleanup and all that junk. So then when it's time to actually put it together in a show format, I have it all ready. That stuff's all cleaned up already. So when I go in the studio, okay, here's my file. I need to do this. Then I can just cut them, edit the size of them, what I need, slap them in. Oh man, there's a razor cut tool in Adobe Audition. Oh God, I love it. It's beautiful. When I found it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So basically I have if I'm doing a conversation between two people, I take their full thing, I just edit it. So it's like they're just talking. It's just them. I slap that track in there. I slap the other track in there, the other guy. So now I just slide them. I grab them and move them. So I have him say his sentence. Then I cut. I just take the little razor. It cuts his whole track. And I slide that out of the way and I bring the next person's track in there. It's real long. It's 3 minutes long. I bring it over. I just take that one piece of their answer and then I cut it with that little razor tool. And I slide that out of the way, bring the next one up. So it's pretty quick. It's not too bad.
Yeah. I don't even remember using, what's that free one? Audacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a big believer in that, and I still am. It's a great tool, especially if you're just starting out in podcasting or any. Yeah,
there's people that do audio dramas. They're in my Facebook groups, and they use Audacity only. Yeah,
I remember being pretty proficient at it, but I've recently had to use it. I had it on maybe my work computer or something because I didn't have it was free to download versus having to either bring my license copy, license over to the work computer or whatever. So, but being in Audition for so many years now, which is, I love it. I love Audition. It's great. And it's helped me learn Adobe Premiere a little bit too.
Totally.
I'm not a Premiere guy. I'm not that great at it yet. Because I don't do a lot of video. But it definitely, the Audition has helped train me in that. But going back to Audacity, again, a great product. But I feel like Audition is it has a lot of features that it makes you forget how to use Audacity if you try to go back to it.
Totally. Yeah, anything you use. I've had that same issue. So I played around with Audacity in the beginning, and I actually ended up using Reaper when we first started, which is a killer if anybody wants to try them. You can use it for free forever, and you basically thing will pop up, hey, it's time to buy it, and you can just keep using trial, and it'll let you. It's a killer strong program, but like Audacity, you have to learn the tricks and the learning how to use the plugins and learning the little shortcuts on the keyboard to get really good at it. But I think it's $60 though, just to buy it outright. It's a killer program that doesn't hurt your computer PC either, your CPU. But I actually bought Hindenburg, and that might be something for you to look into too. There's a trial for it. Hindenburg is made for your kind of thing with this, what we're doing right now. This it's a journalist program basically. Yeah. And it's for interviews, and it's real easy. It's kind of cartoony looking. It's really nice, and you can move things around and mix just like Audition, but it's for some reason a lot of people love it because of the ease of editing. I just haven't. I played with it a little bit, but I'm scared because I'm so engrossed in Audition that to take the time, it's tough.
So you, somewhere, I don't know if it was on Twitter or in one of the Facebook groups,
Yeah.
posted about it when they had like an epic sale, like it was like $1.
That's when I bought it. Yeah.
And so I bought it. Like I have it, and I've installed it on not the computer I'm using now, but on a different computer. And I've been weary of using it for the same reason. I'm just so happy with my current setup that I haven't like taken the plunge. But I have, and I don't know if the version that they sold for $1 is the one that does it. But one of their versions lets you like integrate with Skype, and it basically does what Zencaster's doing now.
Totally.
And that's a big interest for me because like, again, like I mainly do remote podcasting, so it's something that I definitely want to look into.
And dude, I just stood in on another D&D podcast, and we used Skype. There was a guy from Scotland, a guy from Norway. There's two people from England, and a couple guys from across the country in America. And there's like 6 of us on this thing. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even know Skype could do this. So we were all recording on our own computer, and we send it in. That's how you have good quality. But to get on there, we have all these people on camera. Without too much, it wasn't lagging. It worked. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. And I think when you do it the way that you just described, it's great because you do get the best kind of quality that you can from Skype.
I think you have to do that.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know how Hindenburg does it, but that's why I love Zencaster and things like that, because it's doing that for us, like it's recording it locally and then uploading it to Dropbox or whatever. But it's because I used to, like I said in the beginning of the show, I used to use this thing called Skype Recorder, and for the most part, it worked really, really well. There was no audio drift. It would record. You would hear the bandwidth issues that you would hear, like if you started to drop out or you got a little robot-y, you would hear it in the recording. So that was the only thing that made it sound not professional.
Yeah.
But other than that, like it was great. It was an easy way to record Skype conversations 7 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, it's I could never go back to something like that. And I am not patient enough to say, all right, everybody, let's clap on 3 and then send your files in, especially when you have like a guest who, like, to get them even on something like Zencaster or Skype to begin with is an issue because they're not maybe the most tech savvy person. It's hard to get them to like record the audio too. So I have I have my mixer set up for that. Like I have my mixer with my XLR microphones, and then I have XLR connections for my computer, like a separate computer that runs Skype or Hangouts or something like that. So everything's recording to the computer I'm using now, just as a single audio track, kind of the way we do it at the live shows. But I also have my Skype integrated, and that's what I do for like I've had a couple older gentlemen that like were in World War II. I had someone that was that was a veteran from World War II on the show years ago, and he wrote a book or something, and the person that booked it was like, yeah, he can't do anything. Like, it's got to be a phone call. I'm like, okay, I can make that work.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten to the point where I found a way to use my iPhone in the mixer to do phone calls that way too. And it's amazing all the different like tricks that podcasters have available to them.
Yeah. Technically, I'm amazed at how long you've been doing it. You know, technology has definitely changed, you know, because you've been at it for forever.
Well, this July will be 11 years.
Yeah, man.
I think July 1st is what we officially said it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I sat down with my original producer last year to sit down and just talk about the 10 years we've been podcasting, together separately.
Yeah.
And just how, like, when the very first episode I sat down and recorded, I was in Maine, my co-host was in Levittown, and my producer was in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it might, like, you say that today and everyone's like, oh, well, that's simple. Like, you could do that now on Zencaster, or you could do that now with several other things. But 10 years ago, I don't even know. I don't think Skype was a thing, or if it was in its very,
it was definitely jumped. Yeah.
And I want to say we used, I don't think it was called Google Hangouts yet, but there was Google service that lets you do voice chat. And
Wasn't there a blog something where people got together on?
I think it was.
I just
I forget
remember
what
it
it's
being
called.
called blog something.
Yeah, there was that too. We in 2007 we used whatever Google's version of voice chat was. I think it was just Google like Messenger or whatever
Okay.
with
Yeah.
voice chat. And so my producer had like 6 computers. Like he needed a computer to play audio and commercial breaks because we did that stuff live during the recording.
Yeah.
He needed a computer for call-ins. He needed a computer for my co-host, a computer for himself, and a computer for me. So a handful of computers, and then a computer to record everything.
Yes.
So you guys, you can count how many computers I just mentioned there. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's 10 to 11 years later, we're now at the point where I can accomplish all of that. I might have to pay money, but it's well worth it versus having 17 computers in your studio. I can do that with Zencastr. You can do that technically with Google Hangouts, and you might get a little bandwidth issues, but if you want to get it done, you can get it done pretty simply and inexpensive these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is nuts being like kind of on that roller coaster of technology.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I want to say, like, even the guys who came before me, which I mean is plenty of people came before me, but not that. I mean, the technology was the same because really podcasting was like a 2006 thing.
Yeah.
I think it beat me by a year. It was a thing a year before I was. So.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts just watching, and I used to be so like, I need to have my mixer, I need to have my XLR mic, and I need to have it done this way. Literally up until about, like, I would say when I started this show, like, and the technology existed over 2 years ago to do what I'm doing now. I just was so set in my ways.
Yeah. Talking about technology, last year PAX came to Philly.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
You went. I saw you there.
Yes. Yeah.
And Jeff, I hang out with Jeff a little bit. And, Jeff's awesome. I wish I had more time to play some games with him. He's just so good. And so what a cool, calm, collected individual,
Yes.
And he just runs his stuff so clean. Anyway, I brought my Zoom recorder. And I'm so amazed at that thing. I walked around. I said, you know what? Let me do a little special thing for the Steele Empire, for Magic and Steele. So I went to the people in line going in to play D&D, and I started interviewing people just live. Hey, I'm here from Steele Empire, blah, blah, blah. And I had a really, really good episode that I did last year that I just put in our Magic and Steele feed. And I went to some of the creators, and I talked to some people that were making things and selling stuff. And it was a really good episode. And the Zoom recorder was amazing.
Yeah,
really
it's
surprised.
something that I want badly. I want to get
so
that
good.
so bad. Yeah.
And dude, even your iPhone. Before I got the Zoom recorder, I got the ATR 2100, which is like the well-known, popular, easy to go podcast mic, USB. It's got a headphone jack. It's really nice and it's not too expensive. You can do a little extension thing on your Lightning plug. You come out to this USB adapter, and then you plug in that microphone and you record right into your phone, and it does great. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is, I like, usually when I go to a con, like when I went to PAX, I wanted to get a Zoom, but I of course waited to the last minute. I was like, all right, well, that's not going to happen. And every time I'm like, all right, well, what's the best way to do this? And every time it's like I find let's use that adapter, but and then I read reviews where, it doesn't work anymore. So the
one I have, I mean, if you really want to, I could find the things for you, because the one I have, the setup, it works great.
Yeah, that's something that I want to. I'm actually really interested in. At Wizard World this year.
Yeah.
I was there on Friday all day, to do my panel, but I also just hung out for the day. There's, I believe they're called Fireside podcast or Fireside Network or something like that. But they're like a podcasting / entertainment website, and they had like a booth or a table, and I still like. I love it because I walked by and I was like, okay, this is how they're set up. And they're just like playing music and hanging out and having a good time. And
was it the
whatnot.
guys out of Jersey, the Wildfire?
No, it wasn't Wildfire. It
Okay.
was this. They're I think they're they're in Philly, and they're
Okay.
not like they don't do their thing like Wildfire does. They're more of like they do comic book reviews and
Okay.
comic book chat with their, I think it's called Fireside Chats or something like that.
Okay.
But like I'm like, that's amazing. Like I would love to get a table at Wizard World, but I know how much they are because Mike gets a table there for his books and whatnot. And I'm like, there's no way that's like a feasible cost for a podcaster.
Does he sell that many books that it works for him?
Yeah.
Damn.
So this is his second year doing it. And last year he said he covered. From what I understand, this year he, at least if you just account for the 3 days that he was there and whatnot, he, I think, made a profit, a tiny profit.
Wow.
So he had a slow Thursday, a slow Friday, but his Saturday and Sunday, he said, was super killer. And he was there with his game this year too. He kickstarted a game called Quantum Quest.
Oh, nice.
It's like a dungeon crawl basically in as a card game. And
Well, that's got to help. Yeah.
Yeah. He took a lot of inspiration from Boss Monster, and then like it's tied into his book series.
Okay.
So like it works real well. He sells it at his book table. He sells them in conjunction with one another, and like it. The Kickstarter went off without a hitch, and the game seems to be really popular at the cons, and he was worried on Friday of Wizard World about maybe, like he said, I don't even think I might not be able to go to PAX Unplugged again this year, but I think he's definitely going. He might. PAX Unplugged works a little differently when it comes to that kind of stuff, but he said he might consider doing like spending the money that he needs to at PAX Unplugged to like be like a featured player, because he believes in it and he should, and he just had a good turnout at Wizard World where he kind of believes in it even more.
Yeah, well, I think PAX Unplugged should be the place to do that, right?
For his game, for sure. I think he has less opportunity for the Tellus brand.
Well, but if the Tellus is involved in his game, if it's cross promoted almost, he might get some selling.
Yeah, and I think he does it the opposite. Like his Tellus stuff is featured at Wizard World with like a little section for Quantum Quest. I think he does it. I think it packs up
because it's a comic place. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think he does it the opposite at PAX Unplugged. But yeah, he's been having a pretty great year as far as being a creative himself and whatnot.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's it's inspired me to write. And I should say want to write. I haven't actually done it yet, but like I finally I'm like, all right, man, like I just need to finally pull the trigger and do something and besides this podcasting, and I might have to bite the bullet and say I'm going to go bi-weekly with my podcast, which is something I really have not wanted to do. Yeah. But if I don't, it's going to be like you. The reason it's going to be too much on my plate, and I'm going to something's going to give, and
you're just going to crash and burn. Yeah, you can't
exactly.
You have to open it up. Yeah, that's the coolest thing too, because I hate doing it with Magic and Steele because we got a nice little fan base, and I love. And as a matter of fact, we even have some reviews we got. Some new ones, and they're like, oh my god, I binged and now I've been loving it, and I just realized them at the end, then I have to wait, and I feel bad because I feel their pain. I'm like, yeah, man, doesn't that suck? And then now you're like, okay, I gotta wait until they drop the next episode, and I hate having to do that to them. And so, but at the same time, I want to make good quality. I want to edit that enough. So what I started doing, I have a Patreon page too, so I have the raw file, which I don't edit much out at all. And we banter for like an hour. We're just talking about bullshit stuff. We haven't seen each other in a week. So we're like, all right, guys, what are you doing? You going to that Avengers movie? Blah, 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 and we're just chit-chatting about whatever. Give me a donut. Pass me over that. Da, da, da. And we're just banging the mics and acting stupid and talking about whatever. Oh, my God, this guy at work, and it's just bullshit stuff. And then we do our show. So for the show that I put out in our regular feed, I edit that real clean. Then the raw one for Patreon supporters, I throw that up, because some people like to hear the back behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I think that's I listened to your episode, your newest episode. Either I think it was this morning. I listened to it, and that's what you mentioned that about you dropping the hour-long version of the show.
Yeah.
And that's such a smart play, and it makes sense, and that's like the kind of stuff that hooks your strong fans, like I would imagine, would love that, because that's I almost prefer that. Like I would say Kev of 2 years ago prefers the banter over the actual play. I've
Yeah.
turned into enjoying both now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the banter is like I think definitely a selling point for like your hardcore fans.
Yeah, yeah, because me personally too, I enjoy that when it's something I really like. I like hearing the behind the scenes stuff, getting to know the people. But at the same time, if it's just a show, I want to hear the show and be entertained. Then I need that short, clean edit. So it
And
matters what I mean.
I love that Ark City is short form because
Yeah,
I've listened to, in fact, I haven't listened to. I have in my feed to eventually listen to a couple audio dramas that are anywhere from like 30 to maybe even an hour long, and I'm
yep,
like, I don't know if I can commit to that. Like, I
yeah,
listen to a lot of podcasts, and they're all generally 45 minutes to an hour long,
yeah.
and that's I'm fine with that.
Hmm.
But I feel like the audio dramas, like the success there is like that 5 to maybe 15 minute window that Arc City falls in.
Yeah,
And it seems like just such like even though it's the same entertainment that I get out of say like Quest for Magic and Steel, Party of One, and Heart Points Pod and stuff like that. It's I guess because it's scripted and there's a bigger story to follow in these
yes,
audio dramas. It just when I'm listening to my car, I can get easily distracted. So like while I'm
yeah,
listening to Magic, A Quest for Magic and Steel for the 30 to 60 minutes that you might have, there's definitely like at least 10 minutes or like 10% of that podcast that I probably spaced out at because I was staring at a stop sign for
sure,
whatever reason,
yeah, yeah,
and that's, it happens on every podcast I listen to, whether it
yeah,
be my own, whether it be an actual play, which is more story, involved, or whether it be like another comedy podcast. Like I
yeah.
just, sometimes, I drift off because I have ADD or whatever. But that's what's like I've listened to a handful of audio dramas that are like 5 minutes long, and like it's in, it's out. I pay attention for the whole time. It's perfect.
Nice.
Uh, so let's wrap this up. It's getting a little late, at least for me.
Yeah, man.
And let's talk the podcast fest. I know you're sponsoring it slash running things slash participating. You're a
Yes.
Renaissance man here. So let's talk about what you're doing for the festival, when your show is, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's cool because we're doing 2 weekends this year. The last 2 weekends in June, starting Saturday, Friday, June 22nd. And we start, I think they have something going on at a comedy theater. And then Saturday is like the big show. We start at Tattooed Mom and Amalgam. Our show goes on at 1 o'clock on Saturday at Tattooed Moms on South Street. And then there's shows all the way until like 8 o'clock at night. And then Amalgam Comics got the same thing going on from 12 to 5. And I'm looking at the schedule now. Superhero Speak is there at Amalgam Comics. They're at 2 o'clock. So that's cool. And then you got the Philly Improv Theater. It has a lot of big shows. Black Tribbles is actually going to be at that spot. That's a real nice location with another show that's like a little national feel. They're from out of town. They're a real big show. We got this. So you have to pay for those.
Yeah. Hal's a good dude. I talked to him last year. I interviewed him last year. We're going to be talking again this year for the festival. He's actually originally from Lake Monco. That's why he comes out and does it.
Yes. Yeah, and he's a real nice, down-to-earth dude, yeah. And then, of course, Sunday, so I'm basically SteeleEmpire is going to be bringing our gear, and we record and do the live sound Saturday and Sunday at Tattooed Moms, both weekends. And then, so the following weekend, June 30th into the 1st of July, we'll be at Tattooed Moms Saturday and Sunday as well, recording. And as a matter of fact, you're opening up on Sunday, July 1st.
Yes.
Get Everything is Awesome, followed by Full Belly Laughs.
Yeah. I feel like I think every year that I've been part of the festival, we've been the combo. It's been Everything is Awesome, followed by Full Belly Laughs. But yeah, this year, like I know it starts on the 22nd, but it feels like to me like the Philadelphia Podcast Festival really, 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 really kicks off. With at 1 p.m. with a Quest for Magic and Steele at Tattooed Mom. I think there's also a show on at 1 at Amalgam as well. But like that, like you're opening for the Tattooed Mom venue,
Yep.
and I love that this year. Like my schedule makes it so that the only day I could come down to the festival was July 1st. Like I was supposed to run 2 days at Tattooed Mom, like I did last year.
Yeah.
But by the time I talked to the festival people, and by the time they asked me to confirm my dates, I like a lot of things happened. I was like, oh my god, I have like a wedding that's out of town now, and
Yeah.
I told you I couldn't do the 30th because my brother in law's birthday's that day, and we're going out. But so the first is the only day I can do. So it's a shame because I wanted to be able to check more things out, but I usually try to get 2 days out of the festival. But yeah, I really like. I like the this year. I'm kicking off the last day of the festival because I think July 1st all the shows are just at Tattooed Mom, save for maybe one random show at Uncle Bobby's or something.
There's one random at another spot. Yeah, Uncle Bobby's.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm excited for the festival this year. It's going to be great, like it is every year. It's a little it seems like they have fewer shows this year than last year, but I think that's the smart play. I felt like last year was a little busy. And
Wow, yeah, this looks pretty busy. I don't know.
it is
There's a lot going on.
But believe it or not, I think there's 10 to 15 fewer shows this year than there was last year.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I'm always in awe of how they put it together because I don't understand like the fair way to do it quite yet, and I don't know that there is. I don't know that they're quite because like someone's always taking away from somebody else at the festival. So, but hey, you know what? The great thing is if you're in the Philly area, there's something going on those 2 weekends that you're going to be into. Whether it's the geeky stuff that's going to be traditionally at Amalgam, there's some geeky stuff at Tattooed Moms this year just because of the way the schedule worked out.
Yeah.
And the availability that Amalgam had, I believe. And then there's, your comedy stuff, and there's your everything is awesome. That just kind of somehow skates by for the third year in a row. So, but
nerds galore everywhere.
Yeah. And so what's the future? And you're working on Ark City season 2.
Yes.
And so, promote that, get your stuff out for that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've really brought everything home with as far as promotion. I have everything linked up at SteeleEmpire.com. So SteeleE. Don't forget the last E for entertainment. So SteeleEmpire.com. You can find links to Magic and Steele, to Ark City. I've also joined with a few people from Thread Raiders. You'll find us on Twitter a lot. Thread Raiders, hashtag Thread Raiders. And we started a podcast with a couple of those guys. Actually, one gal, CA, Chaotic Anarchy. And we do a podcast interview show with some nerds. And basically, it's we do interviews occasionally. And we just get on, do some news. We do some games that we've been playing and chit-chat. And then we'll do a what's in the box thing, like a D&D style.
Oh, that's fun.
Like you find a magic item in a box. What is it? And every week we do something different. Cool sound effects we edit in as we produce the show. And then we interview people, just creators. And that'd be something we might bring you in for too.
Perfect.
Just anybody can become a Thread Raider. And basically just they're at Thread Raiders is the Twitter handle for that. And I have a link on my page as well for that too. But it's a really cool community. It started with just D&D role-playing people, and then it became now like anybody. And we have a DM thing we do. We have a Discord channel, and we just chat. And just every day, you go in there and be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Oh, good. Had a lousy day. Oh man." And it's support, and it's not like we're doing something every day, but just going on. And there's people from all over the world that are on there, so it's kind of neat.
That's really fun. Yeah. I remember seeing something about it, like I guess early on in its days, and I was like, I was so I never really looked into it. I was like, I feel like I'm out of it. Like I'm not a D&D guy. I don't know, but it's nice that you guys open it up to be.
It's any creators basically. And so basically people doing Twitch, doing games, playing video games online. There's artists that are involved that do commission artwork and stuff, and it's just neat, and anybody can really do it. It's just most of the people doing it are creators doing something in the world. Yeah.
All right, Dave. Well, thanks for doing the show. It was a pleasure.
Dude, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. I see the email, and I'm like, oh, my man. It's always cool to see you.
I really, like I said in the beginning of the show, and I'm sure I could name more people, but me, you, Brian Durkin, and Jeff Stormer, I know we're like 4 of the guys who kind of started around the same time. We've been in the podcast festival for the same amount of time, and we're part of that class, that like 2016 class of podcasts in the Philadelphia area that are still around, that are still doing their thing. I'm sure there's a couple others that I'm missing, but you're the three that I talk to the most from that class, and I'm excited that the Philadelphia podcasting scene opened up my eyes to what the podcasting scene actually is, and before that I felt like it was a cynical world, and because of the Philadelphia Podcast Society, I realized that it wasn't, I wish that we did more than we do, and I'm hoping once I have more time available that I can talk with Nate and Tegan and try to help make some more things happen, because it's just such a good community here in Philly. I say it's the best. I don't think there's a better podcasting community in the States or in the world. I think Philadelphia has a big one, and it's strong, and I haven't really seen anyone that's like out of line yet. So knock on wood, it stays true this year too.
I really, just before you finish, the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Convention, I talked to you about that before. It's a conference. I'd love to see you come. I'd love to see any Philadelphia podcasters. I don't know any of these guys that come to that. I've met a few other ones, podcasters there, but it's really awesome, man. I can't believe I've been going, this will be my third year there too. When I started podcasting, I jumped in and started finding things to network and get in there. It's just a blast, dude. There's learning stuff, and mainly though, it's just meeting these cool podcasters from the area and internationally. And there's a lot of good people, a lot of great connections. I've been interviewed on some big shows that I never would have been on before. So
I'm looking.
It's something you might want to look into.
I'm looking at it's September 7th to 8th this year for anyone that's interested in it.
Yes.
And it's only 2 days. I don't know why I thought it was a 3-day thing.
No, 2 days full packed.
Yeah, it's it's what it's something that's not super expensive either.
It's not. Yeah, the bigger ones they get more and more costly. This is still small enough where you can actually go and meet everybody and talk, and you hang out and have lunch together. You have a drink together. When it ends at night, everybody goes to the bar, and it's great networking. It's amazing.
I may look into doing it this year. That
I hope you do.
I'm trying not to keep this going on too much longer, but I started Weight Watchers this year because I've been having a hard time like losing weight like I usually do. I can lose weight pretty easily, but I guess like at 33, going on 34,
dude, you go over the hill.
It's just not as easy. So
it's harder and harder.
On in a couple of days it'll be my let's see, in 2 days will be 1 week. So I weigh in for my first week to see how much I lost or didn't lose or whatever. It's and what inspired me, to be honest, is like originally I was like, I'm not gonna pay for weight loss. And Jen, my fiance, was like, well, eventually like when you hit a goal and you're there for a couple of weeks, like you stop paying and you can still use all the services, but you just don't pay anymore when you become a lifetime member. I'm like, wait, eventually this is free? I was like, okay, like I'll do what it needs. I'll do what it takes to get to be thin and not have to pay anymore. So that might be like, if I hit some goals that I want to hit by the end of the summer, that might be like my present to myself is treating myself to the networking conference at MAP. Are you going to the podcast movement?
I am. I actually, and before I heard all the negative stuff about it locally, I know some people from the local MapCon that are going to it. They're big podcasters. So I'm like, all right, well, I signed up for it right away. And then I started hearing some crap some people were going through. Like, matter of fact, Twisted Philly, Dina, she had a big thing. She had an argument with one of the creators. I'm like, oh shit, that sucks. Like they're dissing Philly. Like they're not even really taking care of, they got like NPR and the people from the, University of Pennsylvania or something, or radio stations that are really big, but you got so much local people, like, and they ended up bringing on a couple of people, but there's so many people, like you're just dissing.
That one, because that one's like, it's not cheap.
It's like $3-something for a basic.
It's not cheap. And I had a lot of contention with that one, and then when I was on the fence, and I think me and Durkin are doing something where like he's getting a virtual ticket and I'm paying him for it, so I'll have like the virtual stuff. But the I don't, after hearing Twisted Philly and what they had to say about it, like reading that whole thread that she went on in the back and forth with several people, I was like, I am kind of glad that I'm not going, but I think I might make MapCon happen. That might be my reward to myself.
And that is definitely good. I'm telling you, Joe Pardo, the creator of that, is good people, man. And there's just everybody I've met there have been amazing, cool people. It's really neat.
That will be my reward. That and a Zoom recorder, so I can do remote recording. They're my rewards to myself.
Absolutely.
All right, again, Dave, it's always a pleasure talking to you, whether it's on the show or not. And I'm glad that at least twice a year we tend to get together. So, So thanks for being on the show, and good luck at the festival.
Always a pleasure, man. See you there.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Mr. David Steele for coming on the show and chatting and basically inspiring me. He has inspired me to do a audio drama of my own. I'm starting to work on it. I have an outline for it, and the next step is to write it and go from there. So thanks to Dave for kind of inspiring me to do that. Thanks for Dave for being on the show. Thanks to Dave and SteeleEmpire for helping run things at the podcast festival. Make sure you check out Ark City, Magic and Steele, all that information, all the links for that can be found at SteeleEmpire.com. He'll be at the podcast festival all weekend, both weekends, helping run sound and stuff as part of the Steele Empire. But his show, A Quest for Magic and Steele, will be at the podcast festival on June 23rd at Tattooed Moms at 1 p.m. Again, if you guys can support the show, support us at patreon.com/thatentertains. Leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. And, of course, word-of-mouth recommendations. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this whole show. If you're still listening now, I love you for it. I know that these episodes can be long. I know I'm long-winded and whatnot, but it means a lot to me that you guys took the time out of your day to listen to Everything Is Awesome. You took time out of your day to sit down and listen to me and Dave just kind of chit-chat and shoot the shit and whatnot. So I really appreciate you doing that. I feel blessed just having an audience at all. So if you're in the Philadelphia area come July 1st, please come out. I hope to have announcements for our guests soon, but we're going to be at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, the 6th annual one, at Tattooed Moms on July 1st at 1 p.m. We are kicking off the very last day of the Podcast Festival, and I got to say, July 1st is a pretty strong schedule. You have Everything Is Awesome, you have Full Belly Laughs, you have Nerds with Words, and plenty of other shows to get entertained by at Tattoo Moms. Hey, you know what? You've been awesome. I've been awesome. We're all awesome. We've been awesome right here on awesomepodcast.com.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.